You're in a meeting, right? And a colleague asks you this really basic, maybe 5-word
Oh
question.
yeah, the classic scenario.
Right. And your brain has this massive, like 5,000-word English vocabulary stored safely inside it.
All right.
You know all the grammar rules, you've passed the proficiency tests, and you comprehend everything being said.
Absolutely everything.
Yet somehow, when it is your turn to respond, your mouth just produces like total silence.
It is an incredibly isolating, panic-inducing feeling.
It really is.
You're left scrambling internally while the rhythm of the conversation just rolls right past you.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are talking directly to you today, the learner who wants to bypass the fluff, the information overload, and who just wants to understand the actual mechanics of why things work the way they do.
Exactly. We're cutting through the noise.
Today's mission, we are decoding that exact super frustrating blank mind syndrome that language learners face when trying to speak in real time.
And really, anyone learning a new skill faces this.
Right, so we're looking at a stack of linguistic research and psychological strategies on how to think fast, talk fluently, and essentially, hack the language acquisition process.
It's all about the mechanics of the brain.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why does a demonstrably smart person suddenly forget everything they know the second they are put on the spot?
So it all comes down to a cognitive bottleneck, known as double work.
Double work.
Yeah. When you freeze in a live conversation, it is rarely due to a lack of knowledge or, vocabulary.
Right, because you already know the words.
Exactly. It is an overloaded processor. Your brain is attempting to run far too many heavy computational tasks simultaneously.
So walk us through the actual mental timeline there. What exactly is the brain doing when it gets hit with a simple question like, what did you do yesterday?
Right. So instead of formulating a direct, fluid response, a language learner's brain kicks off this massive multi-step sequence. Step 1, it generates the conceptual answer in your native language.
Like Mandarin or Spanish or Arabic?
Right. Step 2, it attempts a direct word-for-word translation of that concept into English.
Oof.
Step 3, it runs a frantic grammar check. It realizes the action happened yesterday, so it has to, scan the database for the past tense of the verb.
That's a lot of mental gymnastics.
It is. And then step 4, it cues up the motor functions to worry about your pronunciation and your accent.
Wow.
And it is trying to execute all 4 of these steps while someone is just staring at you waiting.
That sounds exactly like trying to render a massive 4K video file on an old laptop while running 10 other heavy programs in the background.
That is the perfect mechanical analogy.
The system's RAM just maxes out and crashes.
Yeah, and by the time your mental RAM recovers and you have constructed this grammatically flawless sentence in your head, the moment is completely gone.
The other person has moved on.
Exactly. The pressure makes the brain tired, it gets confused, and it simply halts production.
Which brings us to a major mindset shift. We often treat language like it's purely an academic pursuit.
Oh, constantly.
Right. We study textbooks, we memorize vocabulary lists, and we take written tests.
But speaking isn't memorization.
No, it's a physical and motor skill. You cannot learn to swim by reading a physics textbook on water displacement.
Definitely not.
You actually have to get in the pool, fail a few times, and let your muscles adapt to the resistance of the water.
What's fascinating here is how that physical reality clashes directly with a deeply ingrained psychological barrier, the myth of perfection.
Oh, the need to sound perfect.
Right. Many learners carry this heavy assumption that flawless grammar and expansive vocabulary and, native-like pronunciation are absolute prerequisites for opening your mouth.
Like you need permission to speak.
Exactly. But from a purely functional standpoint, the goal of speaking is not perfection. The goal is data transfer. It is communication.
If the data gets from my brain to your brain, the language worked.
Precisely. There's a powerful rule of thumb in linguistic training to remember here. Silence is your enemy, not mistakes.
Silence is the enemy. I love that.
Let's analyze a fractured sentence, right? Like, I go market yesterday.
Okay.
Is the grammatical structure correct? No.
Obviously not.
But did the listener understand the timeline, the action, and the location? Yes.
Right. The data transferred successfully.
You get the real-world practice, the interaction continues, and the feedback loop stays open.
And later you can refine it to, I went to the market.
Exactly. But if you choose complete silence out of fear, you cut off that feedback loop entirely. Zero practice guarantees zero neural adaptation.
It's a harsh truth, but an empowering one. So if the root cause of this freezing, this mental RAM crash is the translation lag and the fear of errors. How do we actually bypass that translation process? How do we delete the native language middleman from the equation entirely?
You have to build a direct neural pathway between the English word and the physical world. You skip the native language translation center entirely.
Okay, but how?
The most effective starting point for this is training the brain through constant, simple narration of your own daily life.
Wait, you mean literally thinking to yourself, I am waking up, I'm brushing my teeth, I feel sleepy.
Yes, exactly that.
I gotta be honest, that sounds a little simplistic. How does that actually prepare me to survive a high-stakes business negotiation or like a complex debate?
I know it sounds incredibly basic on the surface, but let's look at the underlying neuroscience.
Okay.
When you constantly narrate mundane actions, you are forcing the brain to associate a physical sensation or a concrete action directly with the English vocabulary.
So no translation.
Right. You are repeatedly firing the neurons in your brain's language centers, specifically Broca's area, which handles speech production, without activating the pathways that route back to your native language.
Oh, wow.
And over time, those new pathways myelinate. They become insulated, thicker, and significantly faster.
You are literally hardwiring the language into your implicit memory.
Yes, which is where fast, automatic reflexive reactions live.
That makes total sense. You are building the reflex in low-stress environments so it fires automatically in high-stress ones. But let me press you on the simplicity aspect for a second. If I go into a boardroom filled with executives and rely on super basic sentences like, I don't understand the situation, aren't my colleagues going to assume I'm unqualified?
It's a valid worry.
Doesn't simple English project weakness in a professional setting?
That is the single most common fear among professionals operating in a second language. But research into business communication and cognitive load consistently proves the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Really, simple English is clear English, and clarity always projects confidence and authority.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's compare two approaches. One learner attempts to construct a complex linguistic masterpiece to impress the room, right?
Yeah.
And stumbles out with, I am currently experiencing significant difficulty in comprehending the nuanced parameters of this particular situation.
Wow. The first one sounds like a malfunctioning AI trying to generate legal text.
Exactly. And the other speaker just looks at the table and says smoothly, I don't understand this situation. Please explain.
The second one sounds like a human being fully in control of the room.
And beyond just perception, the cognitive load for the listener is much lighter. I was late because of traffic is vastly superior and more efficient than, due to heavy vehicular congestion on the interstate, I was unable to arrive at the expected time.
Because the priority in any real-world exchange is rapid, clear data transfer.
Exactly. You should never sacrifice clarity in a misguided attempt to sound impressive.
Simplicity is power. But we still have to construct those simple thoughts on the fly, and assembling words one by one still takes processing time.
True.
Which introduces this fascinating concept, ready-made speaking tools. Instead of assembling a car from individual nuts and bolts every single time you want to drive to the grocery store, you use pre-assembled parts.
Right. Sentence patterns.
Sentence patterns.
Patterns are the structural foundation of genuine fluency. Consider a basic phrase like, I think.
Okay.
You don't build that phrase from scratch every time. You lock it into your brain as a single, unbreakable unit of meaning.
I see.
I think we should wait. I think this is a good idea. I think I need a break. You are only changing the final variable at the end of the sentence.
It's exactly like a mathematical formula where the first half is a constant. Like, I want to is your constant. Improve my English. Understand this financial report. Speak confidently. Those are just the variables you plug in depending on the situation.
The realization that completely changes the game for learners is this. Native and highly fluent speakers do not invent new sentences constantly.
We really don't.
We rely almost exclusively on these exact same conversational patterns. Fluency is essentially just the speed at which you can retrieve and deploy these pre-made chunks of language.
And repetition creates that retrieval speed.
Yes, and that speed creates confidence.
We tend to picture a fluent speaker as some sort of, linguistic savant weaving completely original phrasing on the spot like Shakespeare sitting at a coffee shop.
Right.
But in reality, they're just rapidly pulling highly organized files from a very accessible mental cabinet.
And because those files are pre-assembled, the brain uses almost zero RAM to access them.
Leaving plenty of processing power to focus on the actual conversation.
Exactly.
All right, so we've simplified our thoughts. We are narrating our morning coffee to myelinate those direct neural pathways, and we are armed with pre-assembled patterns.
Yes, the foundation is set.
Let's take this out of the laboratory and into the real world. Someone walks up to you, asks an unexpected question, and that familiar wave of adrenaline hits.
The panic.
Right. How do we survive the live, high-pressure environment without locking up?
This is where tactical conversation strategies become vital. And the most effective behavioral mechanism to start with is the 3-second rule.
The 3-second rule.
Whenever you are asked a standard question, you must force yourself to provide an initial verbal response within 3 seconds, no matter how brief or simple that response is.
I can instantly see why that works. If a manager asks, "How was your weekend?" and you stand there in silence for 8 agonizing seconds, trying to draft a cohesive, chronological summary of your entire Saturday.
The silence becomes incredibly heavy.
Very heavy. But if you immediately say, "It was great, but really busy," you've successfully engaged.
You've satisfied the conversational prompt, you have hit the tennis ball back over the net,
Right.
and the moment you do that, the internal pressure drops to 0. You can then take your time to add a specific detail. I had a lot of yard work to do, but I finally finished.
The 3-second rule trains your brain to prioritize rhythm and momentum over exhaustive detail.
Exactly.
And to maintain that momentum, we have to address fillers. Native speakers use them constantly. Words like, "well, actually," or phrases like, "let me think about that for a second."
All the time.
It almost feels like a cheat code because it gives your processor an extra second or two to queue up the next sentence without violating the 3-second rule.
Fillers are essential buffering mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
If you are asked, why do you prefer this new software system? Starting your answer with, well, actually, the main reason is, gives you nearly 3 seconds of active speaking time to formulate the actual reason in your head.
That's brilliant.
But there is a significant caveat.
Uh-oh.
Over-reliance on fillers dilutes your authority. If every single sentence starts with basically or actually, it transforms from a buffer into a noticeable crutch.
It's like using salt in a recipe. A little bit enhances the flavor, but if you pour the whole shaker in, you ruin the meal.
Great analogy.
There is another trap here, too, memorizing long, rigid scripts. You see people memorize a flawless 2-minute introduction for a networking event, but the second someone interrupts or asks a slightly different question, the entire system crashes.
Oh, completely. They get completely derailed.
Right.
That happens because they treated a dynamic conversation like a static monologue. To stay agile, you need flexible building blocks, not rigid paragraphs.
Transition phrases.
Yes. In my experience, on the other hand, or for example, these allow you to pivot instantly based on wherever the conversation naturally flows.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when you are mid-sentence, the rhythm is great, you were using your building blocks, and then you hit a brick wall?
You completely forget a specific noun.
Yes. For a lot of learners, this is game over. The panic sets in. But there is a phenomenal tactical workaround for this exact moment called circumlocution.
It is a sophisticated academic term for a very natural, elegant survival mechanism. Simply talking around the missing word.
Talking around it.
Instead of panicking over the precise vocabulary, you define its function, its location, or its appearance.
So if it is pouring rain outside and the word umbrella completely vanishes from your brain, you don't freeze.
No, you just say, I need the thing we use when it rains.
Or if you are at the airport and you forget the word charger, you ask, do you have the cable that gives power to the phone?
Exactly. Or forget pharmacy. You say, the shop where we buy medicine.
That's so clever.
The beauty of circumlocution is the profound psychological relief it provides. Once you realize you possess this tool, the fear of forgetting a word dissipates.
Because you realize that a single missing vocabulary word cannot destroy the conversation.
Your brain stops treating a missing word as a fatal system error and starts treating it as a very minor detour.
It is the ultimate conversational safety net. You are never truly trapped because you can always just describe your way out.
Exactly.
But, you know, as brilliant as these survival tactics are, we don't just want to survive. We want to thrive.
Absolutely.
We want the physical mouth to naturally keep pace with the brain. And that requires treating speaking like a targeted physical workout.
This requires acknowledging a fundamental biological reality, understanding a language, and physically producing it utilize entirely different mechanisms.
Totally different.
You can possess a vast, perfectly structured database of English grammar in your head, but your jaw, your tongue, and your vocal cords need physical conditioning to produce those specific phonetic sequences smoothly.
That distinction is crucial. It is the exact difference between knowing the rules of basketball and actually being able to shoot a three-pointer under pressure.
Right, muscle memory is everything.
So how do we physically condition the mouth for a new language?
The most powerful technique for physical conditioning is a practice called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yeah. You take a piece of audio from a native speaker, it could be a podcast, an audiobook, or a YouTube interview, and you repeat their sentences out loud, almost simultaneously.
Oh, so you don't wait for them to finish.
Nope. You aggressively mimic their rhythm, their intonation, the way they link words together, and even their emotional cadence.
You aren't just reading text silently off a page. You are forcing your vocal apparatus to move at native speeds.
Exactly.
It is like running on a treadmill that is set just slightly faster than your normal, comfortable pace to force your leg muscles to adapt.
That physical adaptation is vital because English has phones and rhythmic stress patterns that do not exist in other languages. Your facial muscles literally have to learn new choreography.
That makes a lot of sense.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of how we handle vocabulary, shadowing helps convert passive knowledge into active, deployable assets.
Passive versus active.
Most learners possess a massive passive vocabulary. Thousands of complex words they recognize instantly when reading a book, like ramifications or synergy.
But those words just sit idly in the database.
Exactly. Active vocabulary, on the other hand, consists of the words you can summon, articulate, and deploy in a fraction of a second.
Right.
And linguistic research points to a very clear, pragmatic strategy. Hoarding thousands of difficult passive words provides almost zero benefit for fast, real-time speaking.
So what's the alternative?
True fluency is built on mastering a surprisingly small set of high-frequency active words. Take a basic verb like need.
Okay.
If you practice vocalizing 50 different sentences using need, I need time, I need to confirm this report, we need a new plan, you build actual usable speed.
Speaking of vocalizing, there is a specific exercise used to track this progress that feels incredibly daunting to most people, but the benefits are undeniable.
Recording your own voice.
Yes, recording yourself.
It is deeply uncomfortable for almost everyone. Hearing your own voice played back can be confronting.
Oh, I hate it.
Right, but the data doesn't lie. Taking your smartphone, choosing a simple topic like my commute or my current project, and recording yourself speaking uninterrupted for just 60 seconds is highly revealing.
But the vital key here is managing your own inner critic, right? When you listen back to that audio file, the goal is not to catalog every single error and spiral into despair.
No, not at all.
You are acting as an objective athletic coach. You listen to identify one specific mechanical issue to fix for next time.
Maybe you realize your pauses are filled with long ums, or you continually mispronounce one specific vowel sound. You isolate that single variable.
By focusing on a single microscopic correction daily, you avoid the cognitive overwhelm that causes most adult learners to quit entirely.
Exactly. Now, if we synthesize all of this, the internal mental bypassing, the conversation tactics, and the physical shadowing, it can actually be compressed into a highly efficient 15-minute daily routine.
Let's break down the architecture of that routine, because 15 minutes is incredibly manageable. You can execute this while making dinner, driving to work, or walking the dog.
The routine is divided into 3 distinct functional blocks. The first 5 minutes focus on internal rewiring.
Okay, internal rewiring.
You practice thinking in English by silently narrating your immediate environment, your physical actions, or your current emotions.
Building that direct neural link without routing through the native language translation center. Check. What happens in minutes 6 through 10?
The next 5 minutes are dedicated to reflex training. You simulate common, everyday questions. What do you do for a living? Where are you traveling next? And you practice the 3-second rule, answering out loud immediately, using your filler words to buffer if necessary.
That is your high-pressure simulation.
Yes.
And the final 5 minutes.
Physical conditioning.
Yep.
Shadowing. Put on a piece of native audio and actively mimic the speaker out loud to train the facial muscles and lock in the natural rhythm of the language. And finally, if you have literally 1 extra minute, You execute the 60-second recording exercise to find your daily microcorrection.
That is a 16-minute masterclass right there. And the underlying philosophy governing this entire routine is that consistency absolutely obliterates intensity.
Every single time.
Executing this 15-minute loop every single day creates continuous myelination in the brain. It permanently builds the neural pathways. Compare that to sitting down for a miserable, exhausting 3-hour grammar study session once a month, which your brain will largely discard by the following week.
The brain requires that daily rhythmic exposure to signal that this new skill is essential for survival.
So, what does this all mean? When we pull all these threads together, it fundamentally redefines our entire concept of what fluency actually is.
It really does.
We have this pervasive cultural misconception that fluency equals breakneck speed. But speaking at 100 miles an hour with muddy pronunciation, chaotic structure, and breathless panic isn't fluency.
No, it is just noise.
Exactly. True fluency is fundamentally about rhythm and clarity.
A speaker who utilizes simple, precise vocabulary at a relaxed, steady pace with clear pronunciation and no painful extended pauses is universally perceived as highly fluent and deeply confident.
And crucially, if you are stuck in that blank mind phase right now, you have to recognize that you are not lacking intelligence. You're simply in the messy, necessary middle of coordinating a highly complex cognitive and motor skill.
It takes time for the hardware of the mouth to sync up with the software of the brain.
It does.
Which brings up a fascinating, slightly provocative perspective on human development.
Oh, do tell.
Think about how every single one of us acquired our very first language. As toddlers, we listened, we mimicked, we babbled incoherently, and we made relentless structural mistakes every single day.
A 3-year-old doesn't care if they conjugate an irregular verb wrong. They just point at the cup and demand the juice until you understand them. Their ego isn't involved in the process.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
But as adults, we accumulate this heavy psychological armor. We have an intense, often crippling desire to appear competent, professional, and flawless before we ever reveal a new skill to the outside world.
We want to look perfect from day one.
And neurologically speaking, that adult ego, that paralyzing need for perfection, is the single greatest biological barrier to acquiring a new language.
Wow. That hits incredibly hard because it extends way beyond just language learning.
It really does.
If you sit quietly, waiting to be perfect before you speak, the world just passes you by. The person who steps into the arena, speaks boldly with basic words, and makes 100 mistakes a day is the one who ultimately achieves mastery.
It is a profound question to reflect on. What else in your life is currently stagnating simply because you are waiting silently for the illusion of perfection?
Whether you are learning a language, picking up a new instrument, or stepping into a completely new professional role. Absolutely. So the next time you find yourself in that meeting and you feel that familiar RAM crash coming on, don't try to run the heavy translation software. Take a breath, grab a simple pattern, use the 3-second rule, and just keep the data moving.
Silence is the only real error.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that 15-minute routine, apply these mechanics to your day, and we will catch you on the next one.